Welcome back to the Formidable Me channel, where action is the cure and mindset is the magic sauce, and your life is what comes together in the wake of all that. And today's interview is with two people who have really made and are making an incredible difference in the world. This is Andy Hunsaker and Jan Shelton Hunsaker. They are high school drama teachers in Utah. And they are impacting lives and have been for years, are just world-class teachers, and they're just making a difference because they're doing what they're passionate about. First thing we talk about, though, is their fascinating story of getting COVID-19. Despite all of their efforts, they got it, and kind of what they went through, and that's interesting. And then at about 22 minutes, we shift over and we talk a little bit more about pursuing your passions. It's not about the money, it's about what you do. And then their other mission and they have a blog. It's called Other People's Kids. And this is because they have gone through that just life gripping grief of not being able to have kids, and miscarriage upon miscarriage. And it's just an amazing story of their mission now to serve and to help and to be a voice to bring peace and perhaps resolution to other women in a similar situation. I hope you enjoy it. Again, you can't respect and love people more than this. And they are some of the best. So here it is, Jan and Andy. And if you like the channel, then do. Just click that button. It makes a big difference. It makes a big difference. And please, feedback. Love to hear from you. And I know that if you have any questions for Andy and Jan, they would certainly love to be in touch and reach out to you. Thank you. Enjoy. You guys, what a whirlwind has happened.
We like to call it the shittiest July that's ever been.
Tell me about your COVID experience. Let's get that on the table, because that's kind of...
I think the thing that bugged us is that we did everything that they told us to do. We wore masks. We stayed home. We went to Walmart every once in a while, maybe Home Depot or something like that. Just you're stuck at home doing home projects.
Yeah.
We washed our hands. We did everything that we were supposed to do. And then I just woke up and I was like, I feel really gross. I have a fever. And I had checked my fever maybe once every morning since March, just to make sure.
Yeah, he was checking it every day. So then the one day he checked it, and then it was up. And we kind of looked at each other like, are you kidding me? Is that real? Is that real? Is that a real number? Oh my head.
So I called and they're like, yeah, you should probably get tested. And I was sitting in line to get my nose swab thing. And I was like, I have it. I bet you I have it. I'm like, I'll stay in the basement, stay away from me. And she's like, well, if you've got it, I already have it.
So then 3 days later, sure enough, same stuff you just start checking off the boxes of all the symptoms that they give you online, and this box, and then you go down the line, there's that one, and up the list, but we got them at different times, and my list looked different than his list, even though we were in the same household. We had two different viruses completely.
Yeah, I was more sore throat, achy, and fever, and she was
chest and pneumonia.
Yeah. The scary thing was I've always had a affinity of getting bronchitis, and so I called my doctor and I was like, okay, I have COVID, but what can I do to prevent myself from getting any worse? And they're like, take Tylenol and Dayquil. Period.
That was it.
There's no treatment. There's nothing that they're just like, if you pass out, if you have a hard time breathing, go to the ER.
So I did. So I started passing out and having a hard time breathing. So I went to the ER and they checked me in and I got It took me 45 minutes. I was out with COVID in a waiting room with other people for 45 minutes because the rooms were full. And I was trying really hard not to cough on other people. I did have a mask and everything. Then when the room became available, I went in and I was there. They checked me out. But they don't want to come into the room either because you have COVID. So, and your husband, your spouse, nobody gets to be in the room with you. So he had to go home.
Oh, of course.
There's a window in the hospital room. And so I would cough and they would come by and look at me coughing. And they would come onto the television screen and say, how are you doing? But you're coughing. You can't answer them, but they don't want to come into the room.
Because they have to change all their PPE.
They have to change, you know, they have to get into the uniform and everything. So looking at you, and then when you stop coughing, they keep walking. Because they can't come in and take care of you or do anything like that. So you have a television screen that they're connecting, just like this. It's like being in the hospital, but you're 6 feet away from them through glass. It was terrifying.
Dropping her off was scary too, because they're like, okay, we'll let you know.
They found out that I had pneumonia, that it triggered pneumonia, and they treated the pneumonia, and that helped me. So I am saying to people that if you're coughing like crazy, you might want to check, because they said a lot of people are it's triggering pneumonia, and the pneumonia can be treated. So when they treated I felt a lot better. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Now in hindsight, you mentioned in one of your posts that, you know, we think we're cured, but they go back and they can't really give you a conclusive, you're free to go.
Yeah.
It's a bit alarming.
Yeah. I think the worst part of the whole thing is that you get it and they're like, well, if you want your results faster, get this app, download all your information, and then as your test results come, it will come on the computer. We found out, and then we didn't get a phone call for another 5 or 6 days from the county health department. And they're like, how are you? And then the lady that talked to me was really interesting. She was very nice. And she said, do you have any questions? They didn't ask us about contact tracing, which may have been just because we didn't really go anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, we knew the people that we had contacted. She said, if you survive, you probably will be able to have antibodies, which means that because it's a virus.
Whoa. She prefaced that with, if you survive?
That's what they say to everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
So blunt. That's the hard part. Because they don't know anything. And they tell you right up.
Like, we don't have enough data to tell you if you'll never get it again, or if you will, or we have some cases of people getting it again, but they say it's a little like milder case of it, or we just don't, there's just not, I mean, it's only been around, it's less than a year that it's been around, and it's killed how many people?
We just don't have data.
Fair enough.
So,
I think there's some legitimacy to that, and I'm not going to get angry about it. I think if I were to like challenge anything that happened so far that we've discussed, is that, you know, when any practitioner says to you, if you survive, you know, I get that. I get that they can't promise you any guarantees, but man, if a person's going to go in with any attitude going into this help, I mean, it's like saying, I can't guarantee you're going to live. I can't guarantee you're going to die. Well, why not start with just being optimistic and saying, you're going to go in this and we're going to beat this thing, right? All right? We're going to do this and this and this, and there's some hard times ahead of you. You don't have to mention any of the negative stuff. I'll do that myself, believe me. But I wish that there was a little more like, come on, we're going to play ball. You don't go into the basketball court going, you're going to jam your finger. I can't guarantee You won't break your ankle, but we're gonna. No coach ever says that. Let's play ball. What's the goal? To win. That's all we're gonna talk about.
Yeah, I sense that it's a lot of exhaustion. I'm sure she makes 750 calls a day. If I were to get angry about anything, in hindsight, I would be angry at the leadership of our government, at the leadership.
Further on up.
I can't name one person who's acted like a real leader, except for maybe like the state epidemiologist. What's it?
Epidemiologist.
But I mean, other than that, I wish that there was somebody who would just say, look, we're going to make some hard decisions, and this is what it's going to be. Nobody has done that here. Anyway, government, state government, local government, we had just healed and like come out of it. And the Spanish Fork has the Fiesta Days where they have a roundup rodeo. And I was like, do I hear a rodeo? And sure enough, 6,000 people just 10 blocks west of us were at a rodeo. And I thought,
and we were getting lots of pictures of our students and their families or whoever, just the people in the town, nobody with masks on. And I thought, well, if we become a hot spot in a week, and pretty soon
we're a hot spot.
You're a hot spot. But tell me about what you kind of took advantage of the situation, and you just got your degree. What? Your master's degree.
It wasn't a 5-month degree, but I mean, I've been working on it for 2 years, but I finished it during COVID. So luckily,
you made some good progress.
Yes. Yeah. Push to the end.
Yeah. Luckily, I chose a program that was all 100%. 2 years ago, I picked the program because I wanted something that was relatable to my work. As an administrator of arts, I didn't want to do education. No offense, but master's in education is boring. And this one I could do all 100% online. It was a lot of work, but it was at whatever time of day that I had left. So I'd go to rehearsal, I'd go to school, go to rehearsal, come home, and I would have 2 hours or 3 hours at night where I'd work on homework for 2 years. So I don't have to do that anymore. That's what I'm most excited about. Get my life back a little bit.
It does take a lot of discipline just to like, okay, you got to crack open the laptop or whatever you're cracking, but you gotta make yourself crack. What kept you going? Just because the odds are people don't finish. There's more of those than those that do.
Yeah,
it's true.
I picked it. I think what helped me go was that I picked a topic that fed my passion. So I was choosing like a class, like classes, when I was looking at the program, classes like board management or leadership skills or, and I hate to admit it now because that was the hardest class I've ever taken in my life, but accounting. Theater people were just not really good at accounting. So
that's what.
Yeah. But stuff like that I've never really considered, but like the application was so clear that I could go, we did this like marketing class. How to do marketing of your own shows. Things they don't teach you as a theater teacher, how to market.
Right.
But you make your own money, you have to sell tickets, you have to learn how to do it, and putting up posters ain't the way to do it.
There you go. Okay, so that's really, really cool. All right. Well, there's a lesson for everybody. That's great. Love it.
When you start teaching theater, they don't tell you that you're going to produce an entire season. They don't say, hey, you're going to be a producer.
A producer.
Season of shows, and you have to teach all day long.
And you also have to be the technical director and the
marketing
psychologist.
There's just so much to be said there. The whole process and the successful ventures really include a whole team of everything. I remember one of my favorite guys I was working with, and this was at the Cirque. At that level, they have to have accountants. But there was a guy who was absolutely passionate about the arts and all that, but he was nothing but a big left toe, but he was really good at accounting. And that's where he got his satisfaction for something that he didn't have any gift except for numbers, and he was in deep. And the whole history of it, and I read so that's an interesting story that you talk about accountants, because here's a guy who was able to pursue what he was skilled at and marry that with what he really loved, and found that is really cool.
That's what keeps you going.
Yeah. And as a teacher, you're right. Boy, you have to do everything. How do you manage that stress? That's tremendous stress.
I don't know.
Because otherwise you fail.
Yeah.
The average theater teacher these days only stays in the business 5 years.
Why?
Because it's hard.
Of that. Yeah, because you're just not prepared. I don't think you go to college and they teach you a bunch of acting classes and you rarely even get a tech class, but you're creating a whole season and you're telling kids how to build sets, and that doesn't come easy. That comes with years of you doing it, just doing it. So it's really, really hard to know how to do all that stuff without the experience. So 5 years is not enough.
Yeah.
And it's the college experience doesn't really encompass.
And when you think
what
about,
they need.
like, I broke down one day, I shouldn't have done this, but I decided I would go, how many hours have I worked this year and how much did I make? And then I divided. And it, when you really
Never
look
do that.
Yeah, if you're, don't do that. But, I thought, why do I do this? And then like 2 minutes later, I had a kid in my office say, hey, I just want you to know, I learned so much about myself. And I think the younger teachers, there's our dog, one of the surviving dog.
He's whining, so.
When you find those moments that's why. And those younger teachers, by the time they figure out how to figure the logistics of a whole season, then they start to actually really teach. And then they start to really get to know those kids, and like the calling of teacher doesn't come when you open the doors to a classroom. It comes when you figure it all out, and then you get back down to why you did it in the first place. So I think after 5 years, if you can do that, you can sit down and you can be reminded, it's not about the money. It's not about the fame and fortune. It's about those moments where kids go, I didn't kill myself this week because I knew you loved me and that I had a place that I belong that's safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So well said.
You string those together and pretty soon you have a career. And your career isn't about theater. Your career is about helping kids. Your career is about watching growth.
It's really well said. And I want to go back then, and not to lessen at all the gravity of what you've just said, because that is the foundational truth that applies to everybody. But I also am still kind of intrigued with the idea that what you learned from the accounting will also, so even as a teacher, you don't want to look at how much you make, but what's the book, How to Be a Millionaire on a Teacher's Salary? What's the book?
I don't know.
But the point is, money is not your answer at all. And so if you're looking at money, you'll never be paid enough. However, you can, if you're living your mission and then you have some common sense, yes, you have to wash the dishes. And if you stay out of debt, right? And if you just save a little bit of money, you'll live like the king in the fullness and the 100% happiness of what you want. Well, so why do you want anything else? Don't look out there. But really, you have to start there where you're at with serve, help those kids. And that's awesome.
When we left Tuacahn, we came up to Utah County after years of working at the Performing Arts School. Beautiful, multi-million-dollar facilities.
It's gorgeous. Wow.
Gorgeous. Yeah, but we weren't happy, and we weren't being fulfilled that way. We felt like we were just cogs in the machine. And when we left, we had a medium-sized home in St. George, which was nice. But when we sold it, it was upside down $150,000. And we came up to a job that paid us, and I'm not exaggerating, we lost 40% of our income And we were living in Jan's parents' basement. And I thought, what did we do? Why did we? That was the dumbest thing we've ever done. Flash forward 3 years, and we have a home that we could have never afforded. We're out of debt. We're in jobs that are healthy and fun and like we look forward to. We're still able to do and make the difference and live the passion that we wanted, but we found the moment in time where it all meshed together, where I don't have to go on a cruise every 2 months to feel fulfilled.
Right.
Yeah.
We just followed our instincts and took some risks, some fun, some made some good trouble, and took some risks.
Yes.
And it was worth it.
I love it. That's it. That's
Yeah.
a wrap. You can pack it up and go. And I wonder, so there really was value in working at Tuacahn though, just by, if nothing else, that contrast.
Oh yes.
Really helped you kind of divine. So no
Because
love lost.
Yeah, there's days that you go, man, this is a really crappy day. Oh well, I've been through worse.
Yeah.
I could do anything now.
Helped us prioritize.
Yeah.
Direct as much as I used to. I used to think that was, what I needed to do. I don't do that as much. I'm gardening. I'm doing, love life.
Let me add a testimony to what you're saying, that in the bigger groups, that's been my experience too. There's just you just lose that sense of I'm making any difference in the world, and it really is. I haven't had an exception to that rule. Those days working grassroots, everything, and when you start to think about it, man, that quality of life, that's everything. That's everything. So love it. And so where does that put you looking in the future now?
Well, I get to retire. This is my 31st year. I get to retire. So I'm hanging on. I want to do two or three more years. And then I have a couple of books I'm working on. I still write my blog every once in a while. I feel like I'm kind of on autopilot in life right now, and I'm gardening, and there's not really much exciting to write about gardening. So
Interesting.
I'm going to try to be really, really good teacher for the next 2 or 3 years during this transition when kids need good teachers, and then write some books. What are you going to do?
I'm gonna get a new customer. So
No, that's probably true.
Very important.
Job will get a lot easier when I have some help. I think mine's maintaining that joy. I think I've sort of hit my level of like, I really like it. I really like the people. I like the environment. I like the facility. It's not so big that I can't maintain it, but it's big enough that I know that I always have a job. And I think I just want to make sure that I want to now find the balance between being really good at my job and having passion and making a difference in kids' lives, and then coming home and having a good, healthy after school, after work life. I want to find something like gardening or something so that I can maintain until she writes a really awesome book and makes us $1 billion so I can retire early.
Yeah.
That's
Nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
Money's not the goal, but to have it is
right.
nothing to be shunned.
If I could buy a motorhome and
Right.
The benefit of marrying someone who's older than you is that you have that security of having more years. But on this end of it, where she's retiring, I still have half my career to go.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So that's hard, because at first I was like, this is awesome. I got a house full of furniture when I got married. And now I'm like, oh, she's retiring and she's going to be home with all that furniture and I still have to go to work.
Yeah, you're in for, it's a transition. Yeah, it'll be a whole new shift. Man, it's absolutely perfect. Like everything, there's nothing missing in that. Tell me about your blog then, because there's a bit of passion, and you have a mission. Is that completely about the theater? Is that, I mean, I happen to know, but I'm asking the question for the sake of the interview. My daughter just walked in. So tell us about that mission. Because having this purpose in life is what makes people live to be 100 years old and happy and healthy, and having a garden and having the RV. That, oh man, there's a little bit more in your mission.
We wrote a book about being Latter-day Saint couple, an non-traditional Latter-day Saint couple that is still
Waiting.
It's about patience. It's about waiting for what people think is normal, and trying to create our own normal, still have faith, and still love everyone, despite maybe living a non-traditional life with no children. It's not that we didn't
Define
children, but
define non-traditional.
Well, the culture that we live in, you get married young and you have kids, and that's where you find that joy and that garden and that happiness, that passion is in the family life. And we both were raised sort of with that culture.
Mom stays home and raises kids. Dad goes to work. They survive that way. They sacrifice like crazy that way. I've been working full time since I was 15, full time. With the exception of going to college full time in there a few years. I haven't known anything else. I've worked full time my whole life. And I tried to have the normal life. I really wanted to, kids, wished for it, begged God for children, and always wanted to have a family. Built the house, built the dining room, bought the chairs, and never able to do that. We had our first miscarriage.
Right after we got married.
Right after.
Then we had a son that lived till 27 weeks. He was born, and he was born premature, and he only lived for 12 hours. And then we subsequently had 8 more miscarriages in our attempt to have faith in the process and an attempt to listen to our doctor, who was a high-risk pregnancy doctor, and it was like, we're going to make this work.
And try to figure out, and like we were listening to people that said, the only way for you to have true joy is to have children. And so in my quest of life, I guess, was I wanted to have true joy, and I kept trying to have children because people said, oh, children are everything. Children are, that's the only way you can have true joy. And I thought, well, why should I be robbed of true joy? I'm just a normal, ordinary person, and I'm not a crook or, and a criminal. I'm a decent person. I make a living and I pay my taxes. How come I can't have, what my sisters all have, or what my neighbors have? And it just wasn't in our path. And so coping with that, finding coping mechanisms that still include faith, that's what the blog is about.
And you feel like you've had to compromise and pick something else, or are you happy? Have you found a fullness and like?
I love that question.
Well, part of the faith is that, we will continue on after this life, and we will have kids. Maybe not the way we understand them now, but, spiritually or the idea of heaven and being with all of those kids that we did have that did not survive. But I think she also, the name of the blog is Other People's Kids, because we feel like as teachers, we don't have our kids, so we go and we help raise other people's kids. I
do have the faith, and that I have been told that, and understand that my role is to help other people. I have a lot of kids and a lot of parents. I feel like my role as a teacher isn't just about kids, it's about the families that come into my program.
Hmm.
And there are some moms and dads that need help. Serious
Are-
help. And
Oh yeah, I think all moms and dads at some
and
point.
that's what we do.
Especially when the kids are teenagers and they don't want to listen to their moms and dads. They find a parent figure at school and something that they love and that they're passionate about. You know, I'll have parents call me all the time and say, hey, Tristan needs to do this and he won't listen to me. Will you say it to him? And I'd be like, sure, yeah. And I'd be like, Tristan, get your homework. And he's like, I know, I'll do it. And he'll listen to me because I'm not mom and dad, but I'm his drama dad or his drama, you know, she's his drama mom.
And yet we know this is actually quite normal and healthy. And don't think it's going to be some other way, but embrace that and kind of go, okay, this is why we have a community. This is why we need good teachers to balance it out. If they can hear the same common sense, good education from not just me as a parent, I know you've heard from me a million times. I know it's old. See what he says. And now they can vector a better course based off these points. But sometimes parents get really frustrated because you won't listen to me and I'm your parent. And then, they can see something on YouTube and go, oh, Daddy, look what I just learned. Ah, I've been telling you that forever.
Yeah. And then you have those kids, you know, on the other side of the spectrum, you have those kids that are, I have a kid that he hasn't seen his parents in 6 days. They don't really care. They're like, oh, food's in the house. Take care of yourself. You're 15 years old. Good luck with that. So we have those kids, and then we have the kids that are also very loved and very supported and very happy and healthy, but they still need an adult voice that's not their parents, leading them in ways of humanity, you know. And I think that theater and performance support healthy human relationships that are open and kind and
and isn't that what the theater's about? Studying healthy and maybe the contrast of, you know, human relationships, the humanities. And man, if we stop and we talk about that as we go through the literature of the theater, we do create better people. And that's what we're doing. We have to create better people. I don't think we're teaching the theater. We're teaching the humanities. We're discovering
existence
humanity.
in this world.
Who are we? Where are we
crazy.
going? How, you know, and however which way you get there, it's okay as long as you're a good person and you're kind, and that's, you know, that's what the theater creates. We can't.
You may be at a level in your lives of insight and wisdom and a position to contribute that you would not have been at if you'd had the children. And there's actually a chance that you have a bit of wisdom that makes you like, I want to hear from you a little bit more, because you've been through a amount of grief I can't even quantify with miscarriages, and having lived through that paradigm of children's are the answer and I can't have it. You've come out on the other side of that. And so there's something in you that actually has made you who you are. And
I don't think we're ever going to be that term, you know, you've come the other side of that. I don't think there ever is in any kind of grief. I don't care who it is you've lost, or even if you haven't lost anyone, understanding grief, that road never ends. And every day we're reminded of, you know, like losing our dog the other day, you know, we just brought back all that feeling of like losing a family member. We haven't had a miscarriage in 5 years. So it was like, oh yeah, this is, and I don't think that, you know, I wish that there was like, oh, you've now reached the end of this road. Congratulations, you survived. Get on, you know.
Now
survive.
You survived this, but it does give you a whole bunch of gosh, what am I trying to say? The hindsight now that we're older and we look back and we can see, oh, well, we wouldn't have been able to do this if we had children, or we wouldn't have been able to help this person if we had children, or if we had kids, we would always be here. We wouldn't have had that extra hour at rehearsal where this happened,
or that kid comes into your office at the end of rehearsal and goes, "Can I talk to you?" And they shut your office door, and you think, "I got to go home and be with my kids right now. I can't spend this time with you." Now we're like, "Oh yeah, what do you need?" And I text Jan and say, "I got a kid in my office. I'll be home late."
And we get that. We know because of who we are, because we're the same person on paper and we're the same person in our jobs. We go, okay, we get it. And there is that that instant, that is the priority. Save that kid right now. Save that kid, you know.
Love that. Talk to me a bit about that. The difference between acting, you touched on earlier, theater helping us to identify different people and different types and emotional states. And there's such a great book of possibilities there. But using that as a form of therapy, for me to play a role and just to feel those emotions a little bit, and how does that affect kids? As an actor, you have that opportunity, right? You get to actually feel that character for a second.
Yeah.
Is that therapeutic? Is that how have you seen that play out?
Well, in my own life, when my parents divorced when I was really like 12 or 13, and it was really ugly, and it was really gross, and I hated being home. I had a really loving parent. My mother eventually married someone, actually was adopted by my stepdad. And, like it ended up being really good. But in that transition where I was really lost, theater was a place that I could go to escape that world and learn how to love people better, and to learn that you make mistake. Like in a play, my character makes a mistake and goes through this journey in a 2-hour time period. And I can go, oh, I can make mistakes and pick myself back up. I just think the canon of literature of theater is about the human experience, and kids seeing that there are hundreds and I would say millions of stories that are about mistakes and right choices and learning and growing and suffering, but also escape. You can escape this. I can get away from the craziness of math class for just an hour and a half and pretend to be a tree. We would never do that. That's a bad example, but you know what I mean? Like, come to a drama class and escape that world and learn how to increase your own.
Our kids, our school mascot is the Skyhawk, and they call our little theater the Bird Bath, and that's where they all eat lunch every day. And
cute.
Yeah. And they, they have, the drama club has 65, 70 kids in it. The club.
Wow.
Because that's their people, that's their tribe. And, and I'm not always there with them. At lunchtime, I'm running around like a crazy person usually. But I know that they have leadership, and we train that leadership, and we have a safe space for the kids when they come into the bird bath. That's where they can all just hang out and eat lunch together, and then they go to class. There are expectations that they do well as students so that they can come and play when they're playing in the plays,
So cool. So cool.
Yeah. But
and as it goes, I know that I still say things or react to things, and it's a complete echo of my drama teacher back then. There's a whole line of people who, in this weird way, I still find at 56 years old, I still have these little echoes of these voices that now express it through the work I do here in Singapore. It's just the craziest thing. So never underestimate, the power. It's just an amazing, beautiful thing. I wish everyone could see the metric of wow. It's very magic.
Yeah. I used to think it was all about the competitions and let's get these kids to take first place, and let's have this play that gets an immediate standing ovation and has confetti cannons and lots of
I get it.
stuff. And a few years ago, it's maybe been 8 or 9 years ago, I put a little 4x6 index card that said nurture, just that word nurture, above my office door inside my classroom, so that every time I could see it while I was teaching. And it reminded me that it's not about the competitions. It's not about the standing ovations. It's about, is somebody hurting, and how can we involve them in the day's work to heal that kid, you know, or to
I think
work
about
out what they need.
some of the work you did, like with buddies. Was that?
Yeah, pals. Yeah.
Pals.
Yeah, and we just watched this show on Netflix called like Finding Love in the Spectrum. Like, did you see that? And it's
I'm gonna look it up today.
It's the
It's
best
beautiful.
dating show that there could be on the earth. And these Australian adults that live on the spectrum of autism, and how they are trying to navigate through love and relationships. And one of them is a disability theater in Australia, and the girl that is showcased, she's like, you just watch it, and you watch that director, and he's like, so you know what love is like? And she's like, well, you know, and her autistic tick was like really like sarcastic and kind of, she's like, well, yeah, I've had my heart broken 100 times. And he's like, all right, so use that, you know. And I think that's really kind of what we're doing sometimes.
Theater is my life.
Yeah.
Like, I know 10 kids like you.
But that same concept of like, kids are going through crap, they can relate to that. And as a director, you go, now and they can see that they're using the raw emotion to make a difference in their own lives. Oh, I'm going to get better through expressing myself. And I mean, it's endless, the things that we get to see kids do and grow. And
That's why we still do it.
I love it. You are just the most amazing people ever, and I'm so happy to
You
like
are.
just to put this out there. I love it.